What if we just change the name, but not the boots? I like it. Easily the one line within the Adidas brand that gets the least amount of marketing attention is the Copa series. Not the old school Copa Mundial, but the modern Copa series. And if any marketing is going to be done, it's typically on the laceless Plus model, which was the Copa 19 Plus, now the Copa 20 Plus. But you probably didn't even realize that there is a laced variation, and it's the 0.1 model. The Copa 19.1 came first. Now we have the Copa 20.1, which is pretty well the exact same boot with some very minor changes, of course bearing a brand new name, but still maintaining the $210 retail price. And in all fairness to this boot, it's actually really good, although there are some things about it that I don't care for and things that I would change in general, stuff that I want to point out for you in today's video, including what exactly has changed from the Copa 19.1 that this technically replaces as a new model when it quite clearly isn't really a new model. Either way, we're gonna go over all those details, including how they fit and feel on feet in today's video. So if you're interested in learning more, please stick around and watch the entire review. And if you're interested in a pair of these for yourself, you can click the little pop-up in the corner of the screen or the first link down below. That's gonna take you to the review page on my website where you'll find buy it now links with exclusive SR4U coupon codes to pick these up below their normal $210 retail price. Included with the boots is a box, but because you spent $210 and not $275 on the laceless model, you are not getting a string bag. The box is fine, calm down. So this is the new Copa 20.1, and just for visual reference, here is the Copa 19.1, and now back to the 20.1. They look pretty much exactly the same, except for the added detail that you have here on the upper in the form of this very fine grip texturing that they've added that I must say does look really cool. You can see it runs throughout the majority of the upper, and it does add a very, very small amount of grip for the first couple of wears, but once that little bit of shine on the surface is kind of worn off, it just ends up feeling the same. And ladies and gentlemen, aside from that one little difference, there is no difference. It's the same boot over again. Now, for those of you that saw my review on the new Copa 20 Plus, the title of that review was "If It's Not Broken, Don't Fix It." And I legitimately feel like the Copa 19 Plus was something special that we had never seen before. Flawed in some ways, I'll come out and say it. I just don't think the sole plate is that great. But it was such an interesting design. I wouldn't expect them to change it significantly over the course of basically 9 months, which is why we ended up with the Copa 20 Plus. In the case of the Copa 20.1, the 19.1 was solid, but there was definite room for improvement. They have not made any improvements though with this new generation. I definitely think that they could have. What you're getting with the Copa 20.1, as you did before, is a kangaroo leather upper that incorporates their fusion skin technology, which is very difficult to see the logo on this particular colorway because it's gray on gray, but it is in fact there. It's basically a combination or a fusing together of kangaroo leather and prime knit towards the back, although there is much less of a knitted component in terms of feel, both on the ball as well as in terms of overall comfort with this boot rather than the laceless model, where that kind of feels more like a leather sock. This doesn't have quite that same experience. The kangaroo leather you have through the forefoot is extremely soft, really, really nicely padded, but stretches out on your foot and feels a lot thinner than you perhaps might expect. It has that same kind of pillowy look to it, and also doesn't utilize any visible stitching. It's kind of all structured within the material. Now, the thing about this boot, you actually don't get a ton of leather, and the same thing goes for the laceless model. The leather, you can see the seam sort of, where is the seam? Oh, now I can't find it. Where is it? I just saw it. Oh, there it is. You can see the seam right here. It has an extra layer of fuse on top. It runs alongside the midfoot on the lateral side and then kind of cuts across the bottom of the lacing system and follows this line all the way around. So basically from the forefoot forward, the boot is made out of kangaroo leather, and then from the forefoot back, the boot is made out of basically a fuse type material. This technically isn't prime knit, despite looking a lot like prime knit. It's more of like a hard, almost like a textile is kind of what it ends up being. And you have that running across the top of the foot as well with this kind of reverse burrito style tongue, which is quite honestly something that I'm not a huge fan of. And my main complaint when it comes to the fit and feel of this particular football boot. So you end up with a super soft, really nicely padded touch through the forefoot, but the midfoot area and across the top of the foot as well, the boot ends up feeling a lot stiffer, a lot more rigid, and honestly quite thin. So from a performance standpoint, I think that the Copa 20.1 and the 19.1, the laced version I should say, is far more responsive than the laceless Copa 20 Plus, but I don't find them to be quite as comfortable. The little bit of extra stretch and give that you have with the laceless system on the 20 Plus model, I just think improves the comfort, at least for me, through the midfoot. But if you like a very secure, kind of slightly stiffer feel through this area of the foot, you're probably really gonna like the feel of this boot. The laces run through the middle of the foot, and like I said, it has a reverse burrito style tongue, where typically the tongue would actually wrap from the medial side and then tuck into the lateral side. This does the exact opposite. So the lateral side of the upper flows across the top of the foot and then tucks in on the medial side, where you'll see internally, it does have this very large kind of elasticated stirrup to prevent this from opening too much, which honestly, I wish that stirrup wasn't there. I guess you could cut it off, but should something go wrong with the boots prematurely and you have to go through Adidas warranty, cutting off that stirrup, I will warn you, could potentially void your warranty. At least they would have the right to refuse it because you have modified the boots, even though it had nothing to do with them breaking. So something to be aware of. My complaint here though is that the tongue just feels a little bit too stiff and a little bit too rigid, partially due to the fact that it's attached to this heel area, which is the stiffest part of the boot by far. Had this just been a regular tongue with a regular central lacing system, I honestly feel like the boots would fit a lot better and they would also be a lot more comfortable, certainly less stiff, although that stiffness, I will say, does get a lot better once the boots are broken in. If you compare it to all of its competitors, it is, in my opinion at least, the least comfortable. Moving to the rear, you'll find a low-cut design, which is completely different from that of the laceless model. It has a little bit of an extended heel, again, kind of like this mini collar, if you want to call it that, but it's just there for the sake of aesthetics. It does also include the padding on either side of the ankle, which is kind of a Copa thing at the moment. It's a cool feature, and I like the idea of having this kind of consistent thickness of the upper across the entire foot, although you go from padded to thin back to padded, which I'm not sure makes the most amount of sense. As far as the heel liner is concerned, that also is unchanged. Really smooth synthetic suede material, plenty of extra padding, actually a really nice fit through that area of the foot. Then I'll give you guys a quick look at the insole as well, which is fully removable. It is the same insole you will get on the laceless model. The synthetic suede lining material on top, a little bit of extra foam through the heel, which is why it bumps out like that. And it's made from a single layer of ortholite foam. I would personally say the best insole on offer out of all the Adidas models, and you get it on both top-end Copa models. Which brings us to the base, where you're going to find the Exo Frame sole plate, the same thing that you get on the laceless model, but with a slightly different non-wearable finish. It's a pretty unextraordinary design in my opinion, a little bit stiffer than it should be. It's a little bit on the bulky side. It's not particularly lightweight. It's just a very generic sole plate, and there are better options within the Adidas brand that I think would have worked very nicely. If they put the speed frame from the X line on this particular boot, it would be significantly better. And as far as the stud pattern is concerned, this is what you get on the Copa lineup. It is the same generic layout across the entire Adidas brand right now, with some conical studs, these kind of triangular half moon shaped studs with rounded edges. It's not particularly aggressive. It is really, again, kind of unexceptional to go along with the sole plate, but it does get the job done. And for the most part, there's nothing that's wrong with it. It's just not that great. When it comes to weight, in a size 9.5 US, the Copa 20.1 weighs in at 8.75 ounces, the equivalent of 248 grams, which is, you guessed it, the same weight as the Copa 19.1 that it replaces, and just a smidge heavier than the laceless Copa 20 Plus in the exact same size. Either way, the modern Copa series is by no means super light. Wouldn't call them heavy either, but in the space of modern leather football boots, there are lighter options out there. So as you can see, I swapped out the stock gray laces, which do look good. It obviously matches the mostly gray upper, but I've changed them for some neon yellow reflective SR4U replacement laces, which accent with the subtle neon yellow details you have here on the heel. Kind of breaks up the silver a little bit and makes them unique from everyone else with the same boots. If you're interested in changing up the style of your boots in a very inexpensive way, SR4U laces are a great way of doing so. So if you're interested in some for yourself, The website to visit is www.sr4ulaces.com. There'll be a little pop-up on screen as well as a link down below. So if you're interested in some, be sure to go ahead and check that out. On feet, the Copa 20.1 honestly feels pretty good, but it's far from perfect. I think by far the best part of this boot is the leather you get through the forefoot and toe box area. It's super thin, it's super flexible, it's very soft against your foot, and just feels great. The midfoot area and even part of the heel, partially due to this burrito style tongue that they've incorporated, I just think ends up feeling a little bit clunkier than necessary. When you're putting the boots on, it kind of bunches up weirdly and you can end up with these kind of almost painful folds in terms of how the tongue is now pressing against your foot. Something that you can totally adjust, but it's a little bit annoying when it comes to putting the boots on. And because of this burrito style tongue as well, you end up with a lot more stiffness through the midfoot, which for me, being slightly flat-footed, is something that's uncomfortable. I think if you have slightly higher arches, probably not going to be an issue for you, but for a lot of people, I just feel like it's unnecessarily stiff through the midfoot. Also, because of the way that they designed this upper and the materials used, you end up with the upper kind of pulling away here at the side of your ankle, which is not really a fit issue, but it's something that is kind of annoying and doesn't look the best. If they just went with a more traditional style tongue, I think the boot would be more comfortable and ultimately would fit better as well. I think from a responsiveness standpoint, this is actually pretty good because of how much structure there is through the midfoot area with this fusion skin material that they've gone with. So you get the added stiffness, which may be a little bit uncomfortable, but it does increase the overall responsiveness of the boot. From a width perspective, I definitely think that these are going to be wide enough for most people, although again, there's a lot of tightness through the midfoot. So if you don't necessarily like that, maybe these aren't going to be the best option for you if you do have wider feet. And as far as sizing is concerned, I'm wearing these in my usual size 9.5 US, and fit and length is perfect. So if you're looking to order a pair for yourself, I'd strongly recommend going true to size in order to achieve the best possible fit. I couldn't say for sure, but it's entirely possible that this is the least amount of change we've seen from one generation of football boots to the next. They added the texturing and that's about it. Visually, especially in this launch colorway, I think the boots actually look really good, but from a comfort standpoint especially, I just find it to be unnecessarily stiff through the midfoot, and a lot of that comes down to what I think is an unnecessary burrito style tongue design. Going more simple with this boot, I definitely think would make it better overall. And of course, the sole plate, the stud pattern, the weight of the boot, all of that could also be improved. Maybe we'll see that with the Copa 21.1 if that ends up happening. But as it is right now, I think it's a solid pair of football boots if what I described sounds good to you. But if I'm being honest, if you're on the market for this boot, save the money and buy a Copa 19.1 that's already on sale. Anyways, guys, that's it for my review. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to support it with a like. Again, if you're interested in a pair of these for yourself, first link down below, that'll take you to the review page on my website where you'll find buy it now links to get them below their normal $210 retail price, which I didn't mention, but that is less expensive than most top-end models these days, so it does have that going for it, I guess. Either way, if you have any questions regarding this boot, leave it down below in the comment section, and I'll do my best to get an answer out to you as soon as I possibly can. Subscribe if you haven't already for videos on all the latest and greatest soccer gear, and make sure you hit that bell notification so you don't miss out when the next new video goes live. All my social media information is also linked down below. And other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.